On today's show, we're 48 hours away from the NBA trade deadline, so we brought in the man who knows what's happening behind the scenes. We're going to talk about James Harden, the latest on him. We're going to talk about Giannis Antetokounmpo, and we're going to talk about the trade deadline at large. What should we expect? All that and more on today's All-NBA. What is up, everybody, and welcome to the All-NBA show powered by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet at FanDuel.com/All-NBA. I'm your host, Adam Mares, and I'm joined by a man who is glued to his phone as always, but especially glued to his phone right now as we sit 48 hours away from the NBA's trade deadline. It is Marc Stein. Marc, how are you doing today? You hanging in?
One sec, Adam Mares. I'll be back in 2 seconds. See, I'm back. I'm back. I told you. I promised. Hey. Quick message to all our friends watching, everyone in chat. There will be times during this show that I will not be looking at you. I will not be looking at the camera. But I promise you, I am dialed into every word you're saying. Yeah. I'm a professional listener, so every word you say will be heard. But I just have to tell you, I've got many screens in the office this time of year, and I have to try to monitor all of them while we chat. So please do not take it personal. I apologize to everyone, but I am dialed in no matter what it looks like on camera.
See, I love this because I have seen this. Obviously, we've been together in person several times. I have seen this in action, how things can come in at any moment. But this is like a peek behind the curtain. Everybody gets to watch you operate. This is how you operate in real life, especially at a moment like this where news could break while we're live on the show and you're constantly in communication, constantly seeing news updates and getting information.
Well, because the thing is, sources don't know I'm on a show. Yeah. So, and sources, it's so funny. First of all, my writing partner, Jake Fisher, who writes twice a week for me on my Substack, always calls. I do 2 shows a week on Sirius XM radio. He calls me during that show like clockwork. And then I have another source, one of my most trusted sources, who actually just texted me, but usually he calls almost every time you and I are doing some kind of recording. This source always happens to call. So they are not aware of the broadcast schedule, and you got to be part of this gig is you have to be available to your sources when they are ready to talk.
I was doing a trade deadline special once a couple years back, or actually it was a free agency special, and same thing, got a very important phone call right in the middle of it as I was hosting the show, had to get up and leave. These things happen, man. This time of year is chaos. Things are moving quickly, both slow and quickly, I should say. And let's get into some of the things that are happening. Yep. Last night, there was a bit of a surprise one, and that is that the Cleveland Cavaliers were interested in a trade that would land James Harden in Cleveland. The Clippers, I should say, also interested in a trade that would land Darius Garland in Los Angeles. So walk me through what's going on here, Marc. I know this deal has not happened officially. So what led to this report and where do we stand?
Well, it's interesting because early in the season, when the Clippers were off to that 6-21 nightmare start, there was a lot of discussion around the league, a lot of belief that James Harden could end up on the trade market alongside the Trae Youngs, the John Morants, the LaMelo Balls, even though I think LaMelo Ball is no longer in play from Charlotte's perspective. But in November, that was the conversation. Trae Young, John Morant, LaMelo Ball, all of these playmakers who have been all-stars, all could be in play. But the Clippers start was so bad, there was a thought that Harden could be part of it as well. And then the Clippers, after going 6-21, won 17 of their next 21 games. And so a lot of teams thought, okay, well, that takes care of that. We can scratch Harden off the list. But just in the past few days, what's happened here is that by all indications, James Harden has grown increasingly uncomfortable with the reality of his contract. Right. His most recent contract that he signed, it's a 2-year, $82 million deal. But year 2 is a player option. And beyond that, even if he invokes the player option, the Clippers could let James Harden go on July 11th and only owe him $13 million and get out of $30 million. year 2 of Harden's deal is $43 million. The Clippers could waive him and only be on the hook for $13 million. So this has loomed over James Harden and the Clippers season. And as Jake Fisher and I wrote last night in a very lengthy piece explaining all this, James Harden wants a longer-term contract. And we've seen this happen before. Wow. He's forced his way out of Houston. He's forced his way out of Brooklyn. He's forced his way out of Philly. You could argue to some degree he forced his way out of Oklahoma City as well, because even that was contractual. And so he wants a longer deal and a team that is definitely going to be in the championship mix. And then on the flip side of this, Cleveland has been one of the major disappointments this season. And they've gotten very aggressive. We've already seen the Cavs make a trade. So the stars aligned here. And last night, the whole NBA was buzzing about this, that we're all focused on Giannis, but wait a minute, now James Harden's in play. So it just shows you when trade deadline week hits, curveballs are uncorked.
Well, this is quite the curveball here. With the Clippers, here's what I'm wondering. The contract is one thing, and I'm curious if the team, and maybe you don't know the answer to this, if they felt this way all along, because they had that horrible start, and then they went on this huge run. They were the hottest team in basketball for a while, but they hit a little rough patch here, and because of how bad things started, any tiny rough patch for the Clippers, there's no margin for error. I'm curious if this is something that has been building up since the start of the year, or if this little slide recently and how thin the margins are, the Clippers are looking at this saying, we just don't know how much longer we can continue this because it's appearing to be a giant failure.
No, really, my sense is that this is not really what the Clippers want to do, because they have Harden on the kind of contract they want. Kawhi Leonard should be an all-star. Kawhi Leonard has been unbelievable when he's been on the floor. And James Harden has had a very productive season. But the Clippers want cap space in 2027. They want to be as good as they possibly can now. They're thrilled that they've rallied from the 6-21 start, because we know their pick is owed to Oklahoma City. If they make this trade and Darius Garland continues to be plagued by the toe and ankle injuries that have limited his availability, or if he has a slower transition to a new team, and if the Clippers suffer a drop-off from this, they're 17-5 now in their last 22 games because they were so distracted. They looked awful Monday night at home against Philly. But if they slip back and start losing again, remember that pick goes to Oklahoma City. That's one of the amazing subplots here. Imagine Harden forces his way to Cleveland now. The Clippers backslide a little bit, and then OKC benefits by getting the Clippers pick, which the Clippers rally has been so substantial here that the Clippers have looked at worst like a play-in team and maybe like a playoff team. And obviously that lessens the pain of giving your draft pick to Oklahoma City at season's end. So I do not think this is the direction that the Clippers wanted to go. And what they have to decide here is, Darius Garland has been an all-star. He's a good player, but is that a player they want to commit to? And they've got to decide this fast now.
Well, does Darius Garland, I think he comes with an enormous amount of risk. He hasn't been healthy.
Right.
When he is healthy, he's a unique player because his size limits him in a lot of ways. You have to have a right team around him. So is this a matter of the Clippers really covet him? I look at that and say, the most interesting subplot of all of this is that I think the most consequential thing is what you just mentioned, the Thunder pick. I'm looking at this through the lens of, I don't know if I believe in the Cavs one way or another. We'll talk about them here if they got Harden in a second. I don't know if I believe in them one way or another. Certainly don't believe in the Clippers in that loaded Western Conference, but I do worry about the Thunder getting a top pick. And so is Garland sort of we have to get rid of Harden, because of all the things you said and keeping the salary cap sheet, and he wants out now because of the contract thing. And so this is the option we could make. Or do they look at that and say, hey, this could be a fit and we like the way this looks and maybe this will save us just a little?
That's the call that the Clippers have to make quickly here, because if you trade for Garland, first of all, he's got 2 years left on his deal in the $90 million range. And yeah, your basic, the Clippers plan again was, we want to be a cap space team. Well, you're not going to be a cap space team if you take that contract on. So, yeah, I mean, it's good. And also, the rumbles are that Cleveland wants draft compensation as part of these talks. So are the Clippers, who we know are already not exactly teeming with draft picks available to make a trade, are they going to be willing to trade something that, trade further draft capital to make this move? So again, that's why I say it might be the best option for the Clippers to maintain a high-level guard to make this swap. But the start to let's not forget, the season started with the aspiration headline, something that very much still hangs over the franchise because we don't know how the league's going to rule. We don't know when that ruling is going to be issued. The anticipation around the league is that all that will happen after the All-Star game that the Clippers are hosting. And then they get off to this dreadful start. They sent Chris Paul away from the team. They banished Chris Paul, who they're still trying to trade. So and that 6-21 and just one bad headline after another. Then they rebound so dramatically, and with so many, your Dallases, your Memphises, your Sacramentos, who all had playoff aspirations, and they're now lottery minded.
Yeah.
There was an opportunity here for the Clippers to bounce, again, at worst back to the play-in zone and maybe all the way back to becoming a playoff team. And now, they're going to, if they make this trade, realistically, it's going to be a step back, an interruption in this rebound. Whereas, Cleveland is clearly saying, we've given the core four its chance. It's time to break this thing up. The Cavs already made very aggressive moves to bring in Keon Ellis and Dennis Schroeder, and now they're thinking big. My colleague Brian Windhorst said today on ESPN Cleveland Radio that the Cavs have at least inquired on Giannis and AD. The Cavs are a second apron team, so they got to get out of the second apron to make a swing like that. But Harden and Garland, their salaries are right there. They're matchable. So that is a trade that can be executed if the teams can agree to the other pieces of the deal. But again, just the point to me is at the end of last week, everybody was like, we've only seen one trade. This sucks. What's going on? And, we did see a couple trades over the weekend, and now we have another pretty significant name in the ether along with Giannis Antetokounmpo.
It's wild you mentioning the Chris Paul part of this because this season has been so eventful in the worst ways for the Clippers that I completely forgot about that storyline, that he comes back home, Lob City, farewell tour feel to it, and he got sent home from the team. And it's such a big story, and I almost forgot that it happened. That's how crazy it is. Let's go to Cleveland, though. Cleveland, they're in a different spot, in part because they're in the Eastern Conference. Disappointing year, yet they sit in the 5 seed, really tied for the 4 seed, and with striking distance of the 2 seed. Garland hasn't, worked out in large part because of the health. James Harden is such a loud fit. To me, if you're in that spot and you're taking a Harden swing, forget all of the future implications. If you're taking a Harden swing, I just have a hard time thinking you can make that work in short order, especially when you already have a very ball-dominant point guard in Donovan Mitchell. So does this make sense to you? And is there any other layers to this on Cleveland side that, hey, we add a superstar, in James Harden, maybe this gets us over the hump?
Well, it's interesting because if James Harden wants to go to Cleveland, that's because he believes that there's an extension he can score in Cleveland. You have to wonder, are the Cavs prepared to give that extension when they also have to secure, they need to re-sign Donovan Mitchell to a longer deal? Or do the Cavs like the flexible nature of Harden's deal? But I will say this, in the story that I published last night that Jake Fisher and I co-wrote, it's my understanding, based on everything I'm hearing, that Donovan Mitchell would be open to this, that he likes the idea of a veteran ball handler, playmaker with Harden's experience and resume to ease the playmaking burden that he has shouldered this season, because I think Mitchell We know he wants to be on the ball. I think he's maybe been on the ball even more than he would like. Because, look, one of the things that's been so concerning to me about the Cavs, I don't know how you and Legs feel about this, but last season, the Cavs took such great pains to keep all their guys in the low 30s in minutes and tax them as little as possible during the regular season. And the premise was, in the playoffs, we are going to be so fresh. And they still flamed out in the second round of the playoffs. This season, they started nowhere near the 15-0 standard. But also, they've asked Donovan Mitchell to do way more in the regular season than he did last year in the regular season. And obviously, when you do that, there is the risk that takes a toll come playoff time. So I think the Cavs know nothing has gone to plan in Cleveland, and that is why they are so ambitious looking at all these potential scenarios, because it has not worked. Last season they were adamant. Mitchell, Garland, Allen, Mobley, don't even call, don't even ask. We're not going to field interest in those guys. And obviously that's changed.
Yeah. Well, is there any final thoughts on this one? We have to keep it moving because we have a short show today, but is there any final thoughts on this one that we haven't hit? Any other details or perspective on it?
I think we've covered this one pretty well. I hope.
All right. Well,
only chat can tell us, and I can't look at chat right now because I got too many screens going. Hopefully we are answering chat's questions.
This would qualify as a big trade. So if this happens, it would be a big trade deadline trade in the league, and would at the very least be very interesting. Let's take a break. On the other side, we got to talk about Giannis Antetokounmpo, the latest on him, as there are more and more teams that are throwing their name in the rink here, including the Chicago Bulls, if that's even possible. We'll talk about that on the other side. You guys know what it is. NFL Super Bowl. It's the last call for football on FanDuel. One final Sunday, one last kickoff, the final chance to place your bets before the NFL season closes its tab. This is Super Bowl 60, and FanDuel is making sure you're in on it. If you're a new customer, bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets if you win. So whether you're backing the favorite, riding with the underdog, or building one last same-game parlay, make it count, because after the Super Bowl, the season's over and football is officially done. Last call for football on FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of Super Bowl 60. Must be 21 or older and present in select states. For Kansas in affiliation with Kansas Star Casino, or 18 plus and present in D.C. First online real money wager only. $5 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets, which expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit fanduel.com/RG. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut, or visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts, or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York. Channel the fresh start energy of the new year and finally launch your business with Shopify. 2026 is the year you rewrite your story, own your future, and make your entrepreneurial dreams come true. Start your business with Shopify in 2026 and become who you were meant to be. Shopify gives you everything you need to sell online and in person. Millions of entrepreneurs have already made this leap, from household names to first-time business owners just getting started. Shopify gives you the tools to easily build your dream store. You could set it up fast with Shopify's built-in AI tools that write product descriptions and headlines and help you edit product photos. Marketing is built in too. Create email and social media campaigns that reach customers wherever they scroll. As you grow, Shopify grows with you. Handle more orders, expand to new markets, and do it all from the same dashboard. In 2026, stop waiting and start selling with Shopify. Sign up for your $1 per month trial and start selling today at shopify.com/allcity. Go to shopify.com/allcity, shopify.com/allcity. All right, back here, segment 2 of the All NBA show, me and Marc Stein. We've been talking about Giannis for, I think, 3 straight weeks, and yet he's still in the headlines, and that might continue to go down to the wire, and who knows, maybe even beyond. So there's more teams, though, that have thrown their hat in the ring, including the Minnesota Timberwolves, which I find very interesting, the Chicago Bulls, which I find interesting, and a host of other ones. So what's the latest with Giannis?
Well, Chicago's level of interest, I have to say, I'm not sure if that's just not more a, I don't know what I'm trying to come up with the right word here. I mean that
Hopeful on
no,
Chicago's
no,
part?
it's just what's it there has not been among when I talk to other teams, Chicago doesn't come up. You know,
Okay.
I don't know if that's
Okay.
I don't know if that's wish casting that just on all these on all these various apps with odds of where he might be going. I'm not like there really hasn't been any concrete Bulls talk
Bummer.
about Giannis. But
I
now
was rooting for it for our CHGO Bulls brothers. I was really rooting for that one.
Minnesota has been in this thing from the jump. And the reason is based on everything I've been told, Giannis Antetokounmpo has a very strong admiration for Anthony Edwards. And there have been back channel discussions about this going back to the summer. The issue that the Wolves have is the Wolves have the only pick the Wolves can throw in right now is a 2028 first round swap. That's not going to get it done. So the Wolves would have to trade Jaden McDaniels for sure, which is something they've resisted in the past. They would not include McDaniels in any discussions for Kevin Durant. They would have to try to turn McDaniels into draft capital and, DiVincenzo, Randall, you've got it. They would have to give up multiple veterans to try to get enough assets to satisfy the Bucks. And that's a big reason why a lot of people close to this thing think it's going to stray into the summer.
Yeah.
My take on it is I don't want to go that far yet because once this much A1 sauce spills out of the bottle, and I'm sorry, I don't like ketchup, and everybody else says toothpaste out of the tube. So I'm going with
All right, A1
I'm going
sauce.
with the sauce that I like. With this much A1 sauce out of the bottle, could something still happen this week? I think we got to go all the way to the 3 p.m. Eastern deadline to see. But so many plugged in sources connected to these talks continue to say, they continue to ask, do the Bucks really want to do this now? Are the Bucks really just gathering intel, trying to paint the most complete picture of the marketplace that they can to roll this into summer when more teams will have more draft picks, when they can get teams more forcefully bidding against each other? And I think deep down, they really still don't want to do this.
Yeah.
And so you have a lot of people around the league who think it's going to be an off-season thing. But again, it is true the Bucks are talking about this with greater intensity and seriousness than they ever have. And for that reason, because we're still 2 days and change away from the deadline, you have to keep open the possibility that something does happen this week.
Well, the other team that I keep hearing is Miami. Obviously, are there others besides Miami? And does it make sense? I mean, is this something where Miami is being very aggressive? I imagine the teams on the other side want to be very aggressive.
Miami and Golden State are the two teams that are best positioned to do something now and directly with the Bucks. The Knicks, the Timberwolves, let's just for fun say that our CHGO pals, let's say that the Bulls are in this. Now the Bulls the Bulls actually, because they have expiring contracts, they could be a team that would be more able to do this right now. But like Minnesota and New York, they just don't have the draft capital to seriously get into this mix right now. And then there's also what Giannis wants has to be a factor here because he only has one guaranteed year left on his deal and then a player option. He's going to want to sign an extension when he goes elsewhere. So he's got to be comfortable with the destination. Now, Jake and I have reported that Portland, which is a very natural third team in a Giannis deal because they control Milwaukee's draft picks in 28, 29, and 30. Jake and I have reported that the Blazers have registered some interest that we would like Giannis for ourselves. But ultimately, I think the Blazers understand realistically, if Giannis doesn't want to do an extension there, you can't give up great trade assets to get him. Yeah. So Portland has expressed that interest. Presumably other teams that haven't been revealed have as well. But the focus has been on the Miamis and the Minnesotas because those are believed to be teams that Giannis would like to end up with. Golden State has been described as one of those teams since 2020 for a half decade.
Right.
But there has been some question. There have been some rumbles lately with the question posed, is Giannis still as enamored of the idea of ending up with the Warriors as he once was 4 or 5 years ago? And there is some active skepticism about that he doesn't necessarily, or he wouldn't necessarily see the Warriors as a landing spot. Like Jake reported this actually, I think back in November, and it was a really interesting item that the story does matter to Giannis in this, where he ends up. And the Knicks, having gone more than 5 decades without a championship, with the incredible fan base they have, Madison Square Garden, you put all that together, all of that is said to appeal to Giannis on a pretty strong level. And then Minnesota, same thing. The Wolves have had back-to-back trips to the conference finals, but the Wolves have never won a championship. Giannis is said to be a fan of Anthony Edwards. The idea of going to Minnesota, teaming up with Ant, and leading the Wolves to their first ever championship, that is said to appeal to Giannis on some level. But these are all how important they are to Giannis. Only Giannis knows the variables here. You know, we have to, like only he could come on here and say what only he could come on here and really rank the destinations in terms of how much he likes them. So there's still a lot for us to learn here as well.
The other part of this is he is out and, self-diagnosed out for a little bit. The teams you're talking about, Miami, even Minnesota, Golden State, these are teams that have kind of thin margins right now. So even making a trade like that and then having to wait a month, could be the difference of
but he's so good and such a difference maker that you just get him because think about it. This season alone, Adam, 2 calf strains and an adductor strain, and look at the frenzy to try to get him. Yeah. He's 31. He's had leg issues for 3 seasons running now, interrupting playoff runs. None of that seems to be dissuading teams or giving them any pause because, like we say about Jokic, like we say about Luka, like we say about SGA, Giannis on his worst day wakes up as the 3rd or 4th best player in the world. Yeah. And he obviously thinks he's the best player in the world. So when, in a 5-on-5 sport, when you're that good, teams tend to overlook some of these issues and want you no matter what.
Well, the last one I have for you here, Mark, is just about the trade deadline in general. I feel that it's going to be somewhat quiet. There's always the chance for one of these big moves, but in years past, there's always been big moves, medium moves, small moves. And I'm wondering with this new CBA, if the medium and small moves are also more difficult to pull off. And I'll give you an example of a small one. At the deadline, there's a lot of tax teams that try to duck the tax. They're $1 million over and let's just get rid of our 15th guy or whatever and move the pieces around. Are those moves, the little ones on the margins that teams need just to make their salary cap situation work, their future plans work, are those even more difficult under this new CBA?
They are more difficult, but they're still going to happen.
Okay.
Again, a week ago, or not a week ago, even Friday, we had only seen one trade to that point. People are getting frustrated. This trade deadline sucks. When are we going to see some action? And things have already picked up. We saw 2 trades over the weekend. Cleveland, Keon Ellis was the guy that I think most teams, at least most teams that I spoke to, they thought he was the guy who could move independent of whatever's going on with Giannis. And that proved correct. The Cavs make a 3-team trade where they get both Keon Ellis and Dennis Schroeder and shed DeAndre Hunter and reduce their tax bill significantly. So there's Charlotte, Brooklyn, and Utah. Those are 3 teams that are all very willing to take up to do the kind of trades you just suggested. The Nuggets have to make a move like that. The Raptors, if the Raptors don't make a big move, they still need to shed some salary to get under the tax. You've got a variety of teams that want to create roster room so they can convert 2-way players to standard contracts, like your Nuggets with Spencer Jones, like the Mavericks where I live with Ryan Nebhard and Moussa Cisse, I still think, look, we're already talking about a potential Harden trade that nobody really had on their bingo card, and that is significant. I still think we're going to get 10 to 15 more trades at least between now and the buzzer at 3 p.m. Eastern. And look, they're not all going to be blockbusters, and it's not all going to be as sexy as last year when you had the Doncic trade and then a flurry of trades that included all-stars after that. But look, there is momentum behind a Harden to Cleveland deal right now. Milwaukee's going to take the Giannis thing all the way to the buzzer. Domantas Sabonis is still in play to some degree. I mean, there is a lot happening.
Those are medium deals. The reason I asked
medium.
Domantas Sabonis.
He's an all-star. Can you please? What is the Mares scale for a blockbuster then? If those are medium.
Giannis. I would even give James Harden this one, as weird as it is. It's
so you're saying if Giannis doesn't get traded, the deadline is scored as a disappointment.
It was a dud. It was a total dud. Come on.
The DNVR grading system is unbelievable. What are you talking about? If they make a move to shed tax and convert Jones, you'll be dancing. You'll be dancing on camera.
Well, here's why I asked about the small deal thing, though, because you just mentioned 3 teams that can do this, and I wonder, like, whenever there's a new CBA, things change, the markets change, and I just wonder if the price in years past, you get rid of your 15th guy who's making $3 million, you throw some cash in there, and that's how you get that deal done. Some team will take him on for cash. I just wonder if there's fewer of those teams, so the price for that went up. And a future strategy might be to be a Utah or a Brooklyn because, hey, at the deadline, we take on some guy we don't want for 3 months, and we actually get a lot. We get a real second-round pick, not a fake one, but a real second-round pick or something out of it. I just wonder if there's always
going to be 2-3 teams in that position rebuilding and want to stockpile draft capital.
Yeah.
Especially in markets that are not known for getting free agents. There will always be a few teams in that category that say, we'll take on your unwanted money, but it's going to cost you draft picks. Yeah. There will always be teams like that in a system like this.
But it hasn't costed draft picks, though. That's my point is in years past, it's just cost money. It's like, okay, they got money to take that contract.
Everybody loves draft picks more than ever. They've always loved draft picks, but they love them more than ever because obviously players come in on the rookie scale, and it's just if you get a productive rookie, it just helps you financially so much. And so Yeah. Don't worry. You said now you're taking on the Stein role of worrying. I'm the worrier on this squad. It's going to be fine. We're going to have a good week of action, I promise.
Well, this is a great week to subscribe to the Stein line, where you can get his writing as well as Jake Fisher's. All the latest intel and everything is over there. You can also catch him over on DLLS Mavs. And we appreciate you guys tuning in. I'm back with Tim Legler tomorrow. We're going to have Jason Timpf later in the week, and we're going to have Stein again later in the week because the trade deadline goes down to Thursday. And this was kind of warming you up. On the other side, though, on Saturday, we're going to break down what happened.
We will put a bow on it, and look ahead to May and June, because what doesn't happen this week is going to have an impact on May and June.
If you enjoyed the show, make sure you're subscribed. Do us a favor, share it on social media, leave a comment below, let us know what you think, and then most important of all, hit the like button for us on your way out. Thanks, everybody.
We all silly like the mayor.